Good morning. I want to start by offering the condolences of the entire House Democratic Caucus to the family and friends of our beloved Sheila Jackson Lee, our amazing colleague whose energy and spirit will be deeply missed, particularly in moments like these. Uh, the caucus paid tribute to Sheila. We heard from a number of members and played a video. And just for all of us being in these meetings with Sheila and the passion that she brought to each and every event that she participated in just meant a lot to all of us. And so we took our time to pay tribute to her. When we talk about being a statesperson and when we talk about patriotism in the most challenging of circumstances, people who show grace and empathy, wisdom, resolve, and integrity, future generations of men and women will remember that Joseph Robinette Biden served as the beacon of hope throughout the world to ensure that we put patriotism first. President Biden personifies the governing philosophy that House Democrats have talked about for so long, putting people over politics. His decision highlights the reality that everything is on the line this election because of the threat of Donald Trump and the Trump Project 2025. The American people watched with horror as Donald Trump accepted the Republican nomination last week and laid a dark vision for America's future. More tax cuts for the wealthy while working people lose out on Social Security, Medicare, and health insurance. More bans on abortion and more families torn apart. The Trump bans Project 2025 threatens to undermine our democracy and jeopardizes the freedoms, safety, and retirement security of working families. House Democrats are going to fight back against this extremist handbook every step of the way. Vice Chair Ted Lieu.
Thank you, Chairman Aguilar. And like the chairman said, we all are mourning the loss of Sheila Jackson Lee. I had the particular honor of serving with her on the House Judiciary Committee. We went through 2 impeachment processes, and I also had the distinct honor of serving on the crime subcommittee last term when she was chair. It was very clear to me that every day she came into Congress and fought for justice and equality, and she gave a voice to those who did not have a voice. She will be missed. I'm going to now talk about President Joe Biden, who's going to go down in history as one of the best presidents America has ever had. His selfless act this weekend reminds me of what George Washington did when he voluntarily gave up re-election and put country first. If you remember, 4 years ago, the Biden-Harris administration inherited a country that was crippled by the pandemic, and they turned it around. The Biden-Harris administration ushered in record job growth, the lowest sustained unemployment rate in over 50 years, and a stock market that is setting record highs. If you have an education savings plan or a retirement account, your accounts are higher now than they were 4 years ago. Thank you, Joe Biden. In contrast, we have Republicans who want to jam down Trump's Project 2025 on the American people. It is an extreme takeover of government and of your life by radical Republicans. They want to ban abortion. They want to control your education. They even want to do totally silly things like get rid of the National Weather Service. So what are we going to have in its place? Just people guessing what the weather is going to be? This is a dangerous document. If you look at a Navigator poll that came out today, about 1 in 10 Americans now view Project 2025 favorably. It's now about as popular as bone spurs, but it's far more dangerous. It is time for the American people to wake up, read this document, and then vote accordingly in November.
Questions?
Mr. Aguilar.
Max.
On to be of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu coming to address Congress tomorrow. I know a substantial portion of progressive Democrats are not choosing to attend. I'm curious your message to the caucus on this speech and whether you think it's appropriate to skip the Netanyahu address.
I think members are going to make their own decisions. I personally will be there. The vice chair will be there. I feel when world leaders come to the people's chamber, it's important that we hear their perspective. Israel is our closest ally. I'm looking forward to the Prime Minister's address, even if I disagree with some policies that the government is putting forward at times. That's part of our democratic process. But members are going to make their own decisions, and we've just been encouraging members to exercise safety and to let them know of the security posture that we're going to face tomorrow, and giving them the guidance that the Sergeant at Arms has been sending out as well.
The head of Secret Service just resigned. Can you speak on the bipartisan efforts to, I guess, have the Secret Service acknowledge what went wrong there?
I think members on both sides of the aisle were shocked by the events and the assassination attempt. Obviously, it's important that the Secret Service accept some responsibility. I know that there is a number of investigations that are continuing, internal and potentially external from the department itself. Members on both sides of the aisle called for her resignation, and I think that was the right decision. Go on.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. James Andrews from Sky News in the UK. If President Biden isn't fit to be a candidate, why is he fit to continue as president?
President Biden's record of achievements is unparalleled. The last 3.5 years, House Democrats, Senate Democrats, and the Biden administration were able to accomplish so much to lower the costs that Americans face, to improve our economy, over 15 million jobs created. Those are the types of accomplishments that the American people know. Those are the types of things that President Biden has pledged to continue. He'll spend the next 6 months being president, and he will have our support along the way. We're partners in this progress, and I think history will show that his achievements are just absolutely unparalleled. And for those of us who have spent time with him, we're going to soak up everything we can. The knowledge, the experience, the wisdom that he brings to that office, the good judgment. Those are things that public servants of all stripes can learn and emulate, in my opinion.
But are you confident
Yeah,
that he is fit to be president for the next 6 months?
You know how you have pro athletes, like a quarterback takes a team that's like 4 years ago not doing well, and then now takes them to having a winning victory and says, you know, I'm going to retire next year. Doesn't mean that quarterback can't play this year. And if you look at the record, Joe Biden, as the chairman said, he's done amazing things for our country. But you know who is not fit? Donald Trump. He is the oldest person running for president ever. He makes incoherent statements. He forgets people's names. He mixes people up. His cognitive decline is readily apparent. Donald Trump should pass the torch and withdraw from the race.
So a quarterback who can't play with respect.
You know, I always find it interesting when the vice chair talks about football as a struggling Browns fan. I know it's incredibly difficult for him during these hard times.
The House Rules Committee is going to meet later on this afternoon to prepare a resolution on the administration's border policy and condemning Kamala Harris as the quote borders are. There's also talk of the House Republican leadership bringing a bill to call on Kamala Harris to invoke the 25th Amendment. With everything going on, the VP speech, the appropriations process, what's your take on these measures being under consideration?
My take is Republicans are flailing. They have no agenda that helps the American public. That is incredibly clear. They can't pass appropriations bills. They're pulling bills off of the floor. We'll see what happens with the schedule next week. But the chaos and confusion that has been the hallmark of this Congress is because of House Republicans. And so this is just a continuation of those efforts. They are clearly just flailing and trying to do anything they can to inject themselves into presidential politics and to carry water for the former president. That's all this is about, is his love and affection. And they are just stepping over themselves to try to help him. But let's be very clear. that there's no border czar. Kamala Harris's role was to engage in multilateral discussions with our Latin American countries. The numbers speak for themselves on where we are with border crossings. We are in a much better position than we have in the past. Kamala Harris has been a leader in this administration in so many ways, and efforts by House Republicans to carry the water of Donald Trump are just laughable and unserious.
To follow up on that though, the reduction in numbers of the border that we see now, is that a result of those multilateral talks that she worked on with our partners in Latin America and South America, or is that because of the executive actions the president took to tighten up access to the border?
I think it can be both and, but it's clear that the Latin American countries, the Northern Triangle countries, those numbers have significantly diminished. That is factual. There are many countries, many individuals from countries around the globe who find their way to declare asylum at the southern border, but the particular percentage among those Northern Triangle countries has been diminished. Those are just the facts.
There's also probably several dozen members of the House Democratic Caucus at this point who have not taken the additional step of endorsing Harris as the new presidential nominee. Can you speak to how, what the thinking is within the party at this point? And is there enough of an open process for people who do not necessarily think that Harris should be the nominee?
Vice President Harris will be the Democratic nominee for president. Whether people put it in a press release or not, that is going to happen. She has locked up the delegates and the support. We look forward to helping and being a partner in this process with her. I know the vice chair and I have had conversations with her as a Californian. There's a lot of pride among us as well. We look forward to her officially securing the nomination and the next 105 days ahead.
Hi there, Bo Erickson with Reuters. On the bipartisan task force announced today on the Secret Service, can you give a timeline at all about when members will be appointed and when the public should see those recommendations?
I believe that to answer the second part of the question, I believe the resolution or the document we vote on will talk about a date, but I'd refer you to that document in the Speaker's office and the Leader's office as to the timing of the appointments. Go ahead.
Mr. Chair, the president will address the nation tomorrow in the Oval Office and about the path forward. What do you want to hear from him? And also, since both of you are members of the California delegation, can you speak specifically to the role that the Speaker Emerita played in this process, in this transition between the president and vice president, and whether or not that was a factor in how this all ultimately played out?
I can't speak to that. I'm not privy to those conversations, but I can tell you that as Californians, we have immense pride in the vice president. Many of us have supported her, if not all of us have supported her candidacy and her stepping forward. We look forward to working with her over the next 100 days. This is going to be a sprint. What we want to see the president, look, the president's patriotism is unmatched, as the vice chair mentioned, and as I mentioned at the top. I expect that the president will talk about the work that we have done together, but how this is unfinished. We still are working to lower costs that Americans have. We still have things that we need to accomplish in childcare and in housing, things looking forward in the next few years. But within this next 6 months of the administration, there's a lot of work to do. And the president is going to do that hard work. And all of us are going to play a role in that. We're also going to do some politics outside of this building. But the work that remains is what's going to focus Joe Biden, and it's going to build on the legacy that he has put forward over the last 3.5 years. And we're all looking forward to that.
I don't have any knowledge of Speaker Pelosi's talks with the president or his advisors. On President Biden's address tomorrow, I believe he'll remind America what it was like 4 years ago, where there were bread lines And under the Trump administration, you had government shutdowns, you had schools that were closed, you had people that were getting sick, and you had a former president that grossly mishandled the pandemic. And under the Biden administration, you got shots into people's arms, you had schools reopening, you have an economy that is now starting to roar again. And I think that's what President Biden is going to talk about, and also with their work ahead and how we continue on the progress that the Biden-Harris administration has made these last 3.5 years.
Thank you. How long would you say that you've had thoughts that President Biden might not be the best person to lead your ticket in November?
What was the question? How long have I?
How long have you had thoughts that he might not be best suited to lead in November at the top of your ticket?
Look, I think is House Democratic leaders, our job first and foremost was to listen to our members. You saw, you folks reported on those members who put out statements, indicating their thoughts. Our job was to have a number of conversations with those individuals who express their opinions publicly and those who express their opinions privately, and to convey that to the leader and to members of the administration's team. The focus and objective of every single member that we talked to, though, was the same. We have to stop Donald Trump. We have to stop this Trump Project 2025. We need to ensure that they don't carry forward a national abortion ban, that they don't end contraception care, that they don't repeal the Affordable Care Act. Those are the things that kept Democrats together. But we did our jobs as Democratic leaders to convey those the thoughts, the feelings of our colleagues to the leadership team as well as to the White House.
California could determine who controls the House next Congress. How do you think Vice President Harris impacts down ballot races? And also, how do you feel about Speaker Johnson criticizing the Vice President for not attending the Netanyahu address?
The Vice President's going to be having a bilateral meeting with the Prime Minister. I think that sends the message that Israel is an ally and that she is giving him an audience. And I think that that's completely appropriate. California will play a significant role in this political year. The Vice Chair and I have said that for the last year and a half. I think having the Vice President at the top of the ticket will be incredibly helpful. We know her. We know her track record. We know her as our United States Senator. We know her as our Attorney General. We know the tough-minded prosecutor that she is, that she's going to prosecute the case against Donald Trump, and she's going to remind Californians what's at stake. And Donald Trump's favorability rating is pretty low in California. And I think that the Vice President's going to remind people exactly the threat that he poses. And I think that there's going to be some energy and enthusiasm that will get our candidates across the finish line. Thank you so much.
VP.